What's up, losers? Today I've got some more r/fatlogic posts to take a look at. This is episode 18. Beautiful. I can't wait to see what silliness the fat acceptance movement has been up to this time. So without further ado, let's get into the posts.
Ha ha ha. Diet and exercise don't fail in almost any case. People fail at dieting and exercising. Many reasons for that, and quite possible the person is content being fat. But it's not a failure of reducing intake and increased expenditure.
No, it's not. People eat less. They initially lose weight, their bodies adjust, and their metabolism goes down. Then they plateau. Then the weight creeps back on. And we blame the patient.
Oh my god. I love the first tweet so much. Like, after all the nonsense I've waded through in my fat logic journey. Seeing some genuine sanity, clearly articulated like that, it was as if I had been wandering the desert for days on end. And I finally came upon an oasis. Just beautiful. The response to the tweet is not it though. They say that after someone loses weight their metabolism goes down and they plateau. Well, okay, that's more or less true. If you lose weight, the number of calories you need to maintain will go down. And this will decrease your deficit, slow down, and eventually put a stop to further weight loss if you don't decrease caloric intake again. Or burn more calories through exercise. But when they say that the weight creeps back on, no, it doesn't. If you keep eating and exercising the same amount, your weight will remain unchanged. If you start putting the weight back on, it's because you got slack and failed to maintain your discipline and the healthier diet and lifestyle habits that you had established. Notice the way the language they use shifts responsibility. The weight creeps back on. No, the weight doesn't do anything. It doesn't have a mind of its own. It's not hiding in the shadows, cackling gleefully and rubbing its hands together, waiting for a chance to strike. It's just weight. The one who is putting the weight back on is you. And attempting to shift the blame elsewhere to protect your own ego is just childish.
This article is everything that's wrong with thin people who say, I'm all for body positivity, and we shouldn't shame fat people, but y'all are unhealthy and should keep trying to lose weight. SMH, #Fatphobia, #fat and queer.
I don't see how body positivity and encouraging people to lose weight are mutually exclusive. There's a difference between shaming and bullying someone over fatness as an aspect of their appearance, and drawing attention to weight as a factor in someone's personal health. The same logic can be applied elsewhere, and I think most people would be able to see why the two things are different. For example, if someone has damaged teeth from years of smoking, I don't think that we should shame people for that, or tell them that they can't be beautiful. But I can also recognize that smoking is unhealthy, and I would advise people who smoke to quit for the sake of their health. If body positivity becomes a tool for obstructing constructive criticism and derailing conversations about healthy behavior, then frankly that's not something I would want any part of, because that would be a toxic positivity that would do those who believed in it more harm than good.
Conclusion. This essay has argued that the war against obesity functions as an accomplice to the war on terror, in part by providing the recognizable enemy and achievable aims that the war on terror lacks. In reality, however, the war against obesity is more like the war on terror than unlike it. The enemy is anything but clearly defined, and the war is far from winnable. As critics of the science have pointed out, obesity is a far more elusive problem than the mainstream discourse would allow. When Surgeon General Carmona talks about obesity being every bit as dangerous as those weapons of mass destruction, the ones that did not exist, yet legitimated the invasion of Iraq, he may be absolutely correct. The war against obesity may be more dangerous than obesity itself.
What even is there to say about this one? It's just such obvious and laughable drivel that it almost defies rebuttal. given the total absence of any evidenced claims or robust logic in the piece. I guess I'll just raise a few questions I have in response to it. I don't feel the need to do any more than that, because I really can't imagine something like this being convincing to anyone with their head screwed on. So here are the questions. How exactly is the war on obesity an accomplice to the war on terror? You say it provides the recognizable enemy and achievable aims that the war on terror lacks. But the enemy in question, fat people I guess, and the achievable aims, reducing obesity I guess, have nothing to do with the adversaries or objectives of the war on terror. They're completely unrelated. So yeah, I don't get it. How is the war on obesity more dangerous than obesity itself? Obesity costs thousands of people their lives. The war on obesity tries to get people to eat a little less McDonald's. I guess. The war on terror resulted in actual large-scale military operations. So I don't really see how it's a good point of comparison with the so-called war on obesity. Maybe you could explain why you thought trying to connect the two was a remotely good idea. Thanks.
Claiming diets help people with weight reduction. Not everyone that diets develops an eating disorder. Is like saying smoking helps people with stress reduction. Not everyone that smokes develops lung cancer. If we know there are health risks, why recommend it? There are better ways to improve health and reduce stress.
Well, the reason we recommend it is because there are greater risks associated with failing to take action than there are with taking it. You can't just do nothing about obesity and hope that things turn out all right, when we know that the chances of that obesity leading to serious health and mobility issues down the line are extremely high. This is especially true for people who fall into the morbidly obese category, as these people are staring down the barrel of life-changing illness, disability, and early death if they do not get their weight under control sooner rather than later. You say there are better ways to improve health. But in the case of obesity, this just isn't true. There is no substitute for weight loss. Medications may be able to paper over the cracks temporarily, but over time those who continue to exist in obese bodies will face the repercussions of their inaction. The piper will be paid. One way or another, to discourage obese people from losing weight is to condemn them. And that's not something that I can get behind. The whole point about eating disorders doesn't work either. For one thing, because it implies that the risk of developing an eating disorder from dieting is higher than it actually is. Most people who attempt a diet do not go on to develop an eating disorder as a result. To suggest that this represents a greater risk to one's health than obesity is laughable. Obviously, I recognize that a lot of people who develop eating disorders do trace their origins back to dieting. And I have nothing but sympathy for those people. But I don't think we should use their bad experiences to condemn dieting as a whole. Because the reality is that most people will not have these experiences. And many people will see their lives greatly enhanced through controlled weight loss. The other problem with this argument around eating disorders is that it neglects the fact that many obese people are already struggling with an eating disorder. Binge eating disorder, to be specific. In addition to the physical harm of overeating, these people also struggle with the psychological burden of the disorder. And this is yet another reason why they need help. Not to be told that everything is fine and they mustn't try to change. It's ironic that these fat acceptance clowns claim to care about eating disorders and use this to justify the desire to stay fat. Yet at the same time they brush binge eating disorder under the carpet, treating the disorder and those who suffer from it as if they do not exist, because they are inconvenient to the narrative that fat acceptance is intent on pushing. Sighs. I guess I would have been a fool to expect any better from them. Well, that's all I've got for you today. I hope you enjoyed the posts and my commentary. What do you think? Is the war on obesity like the war on terror? Is dieting like smoking? Let me know in the comments. As always, don't forget to like and subscribe, or I'll expose you to the true nightmares of diet culture, haha. Anyway, catch you later.